Hello guys, welcome back to Spoken Essays with me Harshal Vora, and now we're going to dive into freeCodeCamp again, and we will continue learning HTML/CSS. And now we're going to build something called an HTML/CSS quiz, and we'll build that quiz using freeCodeCamp. And so far we've finished at least 4, 5, 6, 7. Oh my god, I can't keep count how many projects we've done so far, and it's only been 2 days. That is astonishing, and that is quite an achievement, if I dare call it. And let's dive right in. So we have freeCodeCamp with us. Yeah, you can't see the display, but yeah, we have freeCodeCamp with us, and what we'll do is we'll start an HTML quiz. And without wasting more time, let me share the main screen. Great. So now that you can look at the main screen, we're gonna build this freeCodeCamp's HTML CSS quiz. And of course, before we start any project, it gives us a preview of what it will look like. So we have a student info, name. This will all be inputs, and we on top, if I look here, this is the freeCodeCamp logo. Then this is some text. If I place the cursor, if I hover the cursor, I can see that the pointer has changed its icon to some eye-like looking character. This is an image. As you can see here, I can drag that image. Then this is info. It is probably a hyperlink. When I hover the mouse, that is active. That's done using CSS. So when I hover the mouse, the box appears, and the color of the text changes. So we'll also learn how to do that. And of course, on top of that, it is also a hyperlink. The same way this is HTML, CSS. These are probably links to those quizzes. Now we're going to build a form for this quiz where we have to fill the student info. This is H1. You can see there's a lot of space between the menu and this. There's probably margin involved, and when I scroll, this stays on the page, but this disappears. The text student info disappears, so this will stay on top. And then we have name, then we have text type, probably text as type. Well, the text box, and we'll be able to enter text here. The same way we'll be able to enter email here using HTML5. Date of birth, this gives us an option. If I click on this, it will show me a calendar from where I can select a date, June 2023. I can select the date, month, etc, etc. You can see here that is very sophisticated, very cool. Okay, so date of birth. Then we have the first question for HTML. Then we have question. This is a tag, this is another, so this is probably a part of the div HTML, div with the name HTML. Then we'll have the legend, this is the question, then whether this is true or false. These are of course radio buttons. We can only choose either of them. Then we'll only be able to choose either of them. इसको कॉपी करके यहाँ पे पेस्ट किया होगा, and they will have added a few. You can see that the text changes, but the spacing and the values do not change. Radio button, true or false. Again, this is another question. I have a phone call. Just hold on a second, guys, please. Why don't you? Yeah. Sorry about that, guys. So yeah, that was a phone call. Anyway, so question number 2, true and false. Then we go to the next div probably, and you can see the gap between this and this is almost the same. So yeah, div distance. the distance, the margin, we must have used margin. Then we go to CSS, and inside CSS again we can see the margin. It could be padding, it could also be margin, I'm not sure, but we'll understand when we write the code. Then we have these questions. This is a select element. This is a select element where we can select out of the 3 options. This is a select option by default. And do you have any questions? And this is a placeholder text, and this is of course the text. Anyway, and then we have the send button, and then we have the footer pages. In the footer pages we have freeCodeCamp, and this footer page is completely filled. It has a background text. So that's what we're going to build. Let's see how the code works. Great. Yeah, so this blinked, the color blinked. So let's start with step 1. Welcome to the first part of the accessibility quiz. Are you becoming a seasoned HTML? As you are becoming as a seasoned HTML and CSS developer, we have started you off with the basic boilerplate. Thank you. Yeah, basic boilerplate. This is something that we use for all the HTML documents. You can see in the first line here, it's doc type HTML. Inside this HTML head link, they've already linked the styles.css file, and we have a space, we have an empty line here for us to start adding text here or start adding code here. So what does this say? Start this accessibility journey by providing a lang attribute to your HTML element. So we can leave that part for now, as in we can leave this empty line for now. What we'll do is we'll go to HTML and we'll give this a lang attribute, lang English, so the browser knows how to show the text, in which language to show the text. Okay. This will assist screen readers in identifying the language of the page. So screen readers, people who are blind, will be they'll be able to identify the language of the page. Great, that's a great start. Step 1 done. And mind you guys, this project has 63 steps. Let's confirm that before we go any further. So it has 68 steps. So 68 steps, they're good to go. I think will be done in maybe an hour, maybe an hour and a half, maybe 2 hours probably. Yeah, I can guess 2 hours. Anyway, moving further, we go to resume project, and we can read this too for our sake. So accessibility is making your web page easy for all people to use, even people with disabilities. Of course, in this course, you'll build a quiz web page. You'll learn accessibility tools such as keyboard shortcuts, ARIA attributes, and design best practices. Nice. So कीबोर्ड शॉर्टकट्स देखेंगे, एक्सेसिबिलिटी टूल्स, हम लोग क्या कीबोर्ड शॉर्टकट्स डाल सकते हैं जिससे हम लोग और कोड ईजिली लिख सके, फास्ट लिख सके. What are ARIA attributes? I think we will learn what they are in this project, so best leave it at that. And design best practices. तो हम लोग डिज़ाइन की बेस्ट प्रैक्टिसेस क्या होती है, हम लोग कैसे डिज़ाइन को फॉलो करते हैं so that the page looks good. So resume project. Now we were on step 2. You may be familiar with the meta element already. We are. It is used to specify information about the page, such as the title, description, keywords, and author. That I didn't know. Such as title, description, keywords, and author. Interesting. Okay. Give your page a meta element with the appropriate char set value. So char set. I like saying char set. So meta, then char set equals double quotes. Yeah. Okay. That. I'll just adjust myself a little. Yes. So give your page a meta element with an appropriate character set value. You know what? Yeah, I'll have to adjust my earphones. Just give me a second. Okay. Yep. Okay. Sorry about that. Yeah. I will also do some adjustments to the mic. Okay, that is too much. You can hear the background too. Anyway, you may be familiar with the meta element already. It is used to specify information. Okay, we'll give it a meta element with the char set value. Char set is UTF-8, not 89, 8. The charset attribute specify the character encoding of the page. Nowadays, UTF-8 is the only encoding supported by most browsers. Most browsers in the world support this encoding. We have UTF-16 too, UTF-32, I believe. But anyway, for now, let's go to UTF-8. Let's go with UTF-8. Now on step 3, can you see this? Is the text more visible now? I think the text is more visible to you guys now. Okay, so Command F. So I press the button Command Shift F to go full screen when I'm on Chrome. So the text, the top bar is still visible, but only when I take the cursor, take the pointer above, drag the pointer above. Continuing with meta elements, we will add a viewport definition that tells the browser how to render the page. अभी तुम render कैसे करोगे पेज को, अभी अलग अलग साइज़ के हिसाब से व्यू पोर्ट्स हो, अलग अलग डिस्प्लेस के हिसाब से वो पेज को कैसे रेंडर करेगा वो दिखाएगा. सो लेट्स राइट दैट. सो मेटा स्पेस, what will we write? So including one better's visual accessibility on mobile and improves SEO. So ये अगर mention करेंगे then it will help with search engine optimization and it will also look better on a mobile phone too. आप अभी तो websites देखते हैं तो mostly Facebook, YouTube, Google, these all these websites, well, who uses YouTube website anymore, but you get my point that any website that you view on your phone and view on your computer, they look a little bit different, but still they look organized enough. So accessibility on mobile and improves SEO, search engine optimization. Add a viewport definition, so with a content attribute detailing the width and initial scale of the page. So we remember that we have been writing this device width for some time now. So first I'll give the attribute content equals, oh sorry, I moved the cursor. Content equals, in double quotes we will write viewport, and then we will add another attribute which says width, and in width we will put in double quotes, okay, for width we will write, okay, sorry, I think I'm missing something. So for this we will write width equals device hyphen width. Maybe I'm missing something. This property should be different. Instead of width I should be writing something else, but I'm going to use the help of the hint. Moving on, it will also ask us to put the initial scale, which will be initial hyphen scale equals 1.0, so 1. Let's see what I missed and what I wrote incorrectly. I am sure I wrote width incorrectly. This should be something else. I can't for life of me remember what it is. Of course we have to close that tag too. So it says meta, a name attribute of viewport. I see. So the content will be here and the viewport will be the name attribute. So the name attribute's value will be viewport. Yep. Okay. So content with device width and initial scale 1. And initial scale equals 1, width equals device width. So what does this say? Content width equals device hyphen width, comma space initial scale equals 1. So where did I miss it? Did I put a typo somewhere in there? So content equals double quotes width equals device hyphen width, comma space initial scale. And I did put a typo, initial scale, not initial scale. So now we go to step 4. थोड़ा scroll करूँगा तो भी आपको दिखेगा. Okay. So another important meta element for accessibility and SEO is description definition. The value of the content attribute is used by search engines to provide a description of your page. value of the description of your page. Okay, so we will add another meta element with the name attribute set to description and give it useful content attribute. Okay, that is something new. Let's find out. Maybe I'm missing something. If your description, what description will we give? Okay, so it's for a description of your page. Add a meta element, so we'll add a meta element. The order doesn't really matter, so meta. Then we'll add the name attribute where it says description and give it a useful content attribute. So content equals this. So what will we give? What is the quiz about? Learn accessibility by building a quiz. So I'm going to copy exactly that. Yeah, I think, yeah, that's a good one. Oh, I can't copy this text. I think I can. I'll use the element selector and I will copy this text. And for content, I'll paste this. Learn accessibility by building a quiz. Congratulations. We could have written anything, I think. Even if I wrote learn accessibility, that would also have been appropriate according to this. Anyway, so we're done. Yep, submit and go to next challenge. Now we're on step 5. Lastly, in the head, the title element is useful for screen readers to understand the content of a page. So in the head, the title element will also add a title element. I think we should add them after all the meta elements or after the link element. So it is useful for screen readers to understand the content of a page. Furthermore, it is an important part of SEO. That is true. Give your page a title that is descriptive and concise. So title, opening tag. Oh, I'm so sorry. Yeah, I should have pressed shift. Yeah. So shift, yes, shift again, slash title to close it. So we've added because this is not a closing title, and we'll give it the same line. Learn accessibility by building a quiz test. Yeah, I think that's appropriate. We could also, what else can we write that is descriptive and concise? So we're building a website. We'll be building a web page that is for accessibility. So you know what, I'll write HTML/CSS quiz. So in all caps, HTML/CSS space quiz. The code doesn't pass. Let's find out why. Try being more descriptive with your title element. Hint, at least, I see. So we should add at least 15 characters to make it more descriptive. Learn HTML/CSS quiz by freeCodeCamp. I think that should be, that is 15 characters. Great. Now we're on step 6. Navigation is a core part of accessibility, and screen readers rely on you to provide the structure of your page. We have to, so that it's more readable, and screen readers should be can read it better. They'll have a better experience on the internet. So navigation is a core part of accessibility and screen readers. Okay, this is accomplished with semantic HTML elements. Semantic. What does semantic mean? Semantic means relating to meaning in language or logic. So semantic HTML elements. So logical, relating to meaning in language or logic. Okay. So what does this say? Add a header and a main element to your page. Add a header and a main element to your page. Okay, we'll do that. Yes, we came across the main element a few tutorials ago. We haven't used it afterwards, but it is not a self-closing tag that I can tell you. We use different sections for people to understand, and we'll also add a header element. So what does this say? Header element will be used to introduce the page as well as provide a navigation menu. So we have header, footer, we have different headers. So I can quickly give you an example of what a header is. So I'll write google.com, anything. I can just write, for example, freeCodeCamp. You can see this is the header where all videos, images, so this is the header, and that's what it looks like. And when I scroll down, the header collapses and this covers the view. So that is the header. So that will be useful to introduce the page as well as provide a navigation menu. Yes, so people will be able to navigate easily. It seems there's some disturbance, so I'll just quickly come and deal with that. Sorry about that, guys. Just give me a few seconds, please. And we're back. So where were we? So we were reading that header element will be used to introduce the page. Yes, will provide a navigation menu too. So the main element will contain the core content of your page. Okay, so we'll put header. We will also be asked to add the footer menu later, but that's for the next steps. We can submit and go to the next challenge. फुल स्क्रीन कर देता हूँ, आपको ज़्यादा क्लियरली दिखेगा, थोड़ा और डेटा दिखेगा. Okay, so now we're on step 7. Within the header, provide content about the page by nesting one image, h1 and nav element. Nav must be for navigation, because we have been talking about navigation for some time, for a few steps now. So within the header, provide content about the page by nesting one image, h1 and nav element. So we'll nest them inside header. How do you nest it? So we use the button tab or two spaces, whichever one you prefer, and we will add these elements. So first I'll add image element. Notice, guys, this is a self-closing tag. Then h1, which is not a self-closing tag, so I'll add a opening and closing h1 tag. Then I'll also add nav element. I don't know whether it is a self-closing tag or not, so let's see. What does the next part say? The image should point to https://cdn content distribution network freecodecamp.org platform universal fee. So we're going to take, I believe, their logo. We're going to place their logo first in the navigation, in the header page. So image, I'll write source equals double quotes and paste. So you have an ID and a logo. You can see we have an image here. You can if you look closely, so there's a letter F, that's a letter R, and that's a letter E, free. Anyway, you have an ID of a logo and have an ID of logo. So we'll also give it an ID that says ID equals logo. Great. The H1 should contain the text HTML CSS squares, which will be in the center like we saw in the preview. Paste. Nav, I don't know anything about it, but if I don't know, let's go and put the end tag to, closing tag to, and we have the green light. A useful property of an SVG, scalable vector graphics, is that it contains a path attribute which allows the image to be scaled without affecting the resolution of the resultant image. So guys, quickly I'll give you some information. So we have, well, raster graphics, and then we have there are two types of graphics, I'm sure I forgot. So raster and vector graphics. So SVG is a part of vector graphics, and raster is of course image. So raster images, raster images are of certain size, they cannot be scaled. एक साइज़ होती है, अगर हम उसको स्केल करते हैं या फिर उसको जूम करते हैं तो आप हमें पिक्सल्स दिखने लगेंगे, हमें क्लियर उसके पिक्सल्स दिखने लगेंगे, स्क्वायर्स दिखने लगेंगे. Whereas with vectors vectors can be scaled to any size. So SVG comes in the vector graphics. It obviously says that. So vectors are mathematical values. So आपको उसको जो भी वो टेक्स्ट को जितनी साइज़ में रखना है, जितना बड़ा करना है, जितना छोटा करना है, यू कैन डू इट. एंड if you scale it up or down, it will still be clear, it will be HD, and it will not affect the resolution of the image. The quality of the image won't be ruined. Anyway, moving on. Currently the image is, the IMG is assuming its default size. तो हमने अभी कुछ size wise mention नहीं किया, तो वो default size दिखाएगा SVG की, which is too large. I agree, it is too large. You can barely see the entire logo. You can only see FRE and not even RE correct properly. थोड़ा कट गया ऐसा लग रहा है. Anyway, so correctly scale the image using its ID as a selector. Okay, so in CSS we will use ID as the selector. So its ID is, let's check for reference. The ID for this is, okay, ID is logo. We'll go back to styles to CSS. So using its ID, which is logo, as a selector. So we'll use this as a selector, logo, and I'll add the curly brackets. Inside these curly brackets I'll mention the width property, width, not ht, width property, and we'll add a function called max 100 px and 18 vw. Nothing has changed, so I think then it's a type selector. No, still nothing changed, so I'm not sure what's going on. Maybe I did something wrong. You know what, let's mention it as a class selector. Something's wrong. So you should use the hyphen logo selector to target the image element. Or if I root this, that also doesn't work. If I write hyphen, the moment I put hyphen, it in the preview it automatically changes the size of the logo. So when we're targeting IDs, when we're using IDs as a selector, we're supposed to put hyphen hashes. जैसे ही हैश डाल दिया, we have the green light, and we can see in the preview that something changed. Before, when I added the dot, so I assumed that it would be a class selector, but it is not a class selector. It is not a type selector. It is a selector. So hash. Now let's move to the next step. Step 9. As described in the freeCodeCamp style guide, the logo should retain an aspect ratio of 35 by 4. I see. And have padding around the text. So as a freeCodeCamp style guide. So this, I'll mention this freeCodeCamp style guide in the comments, guys. You can also read for yourselves. This is the freeCodeCamp style guide. क्या स्टाइल होती है, कैसे इसका लोगो दिखाना चाहिए, spacing consideration, everything. You can check it out for yourselves. I'll also mention this in the description, so just give me a second please. So for this live video we didn't go to these links. Okay, design style, I've added that link. Great. W3 schools, I will mention the W3 schools website because I refer to it a lot of times. Great, we have added that. and in the comments in Facebook comments I've also added it. Great. So going back, what does this say? As described in the freeCodeCamp style guide, the logo should retain an aspect ratio of 35 by 4 and have padding around the text. Okay. First, change the background color to this so you can see the logo. Okay, yes, we'll do that. Then use the aspect ratio property to set the desired aspect ratio to 35 by 4. Finally, add a padding of 0.4 rem all around relative element. So go here. First, I'll change the background. background hyphen color colon and then semicolon, and in this I will put the value 0A0A23. Now we can see freeCodeCamp. Now what else are we supposed to do? Then we'll use the aspect ratio property to set it to 35 by 4. These are ratios, so 35 by 4, 16 by 9, 1 by 1. You must have come across these ratios before. So I'll write ASPECT ratio colon 35 space 35 slash space 4 semicolon. I don't see a difference so far. Maybe that will give me, okay, there is no difference yet. But if I remove this, there is no difference, so maybe it will appear later. ASPETC, okay, ASPECT, okay. So and I'll also add padding to 0.4 all around. So 0.4 rem and semicolon. And the moment I added padding, I can see that they have added the padding for this ID logo. What if I change the aspect ratio now? I see. What if I write this to 3 by 4? Yes, so it does. Yeah, so that was by default 35 by 4 by default of the ID, the aspect ratio of the ID. Great. Now let's move on to the step 10. Make the header take up the full width. I'll screw it. Okay, that is much better. Make the header take up the full width of its parent container. Set its height to 50 pixels and set the background color to 1B1B32. Then set the display to use flexbox. You got it. So header, this is a type selector. Take the full width. So for width I will write 100%. Then we will also add the background color, so background hyphen color colon space. We also have to mention the height. Okay, full width of its parent contains at its height, so HEIG 50 pixels. I didn't mention that. And background color is hash 1B1B32 semicolon. We can see that immediately. Then set the display to use flexbox, so display flex semicolon, and we can see that. We can see the text text is behind this, what we wrote, HTML CSS quiz. If you notice here, if I select the text, you can see it when I highlight it, and it is behind the text, behind the header. And we're good to go. Let's go to the next step. So now we're on step 11. I'll scroll down a little bit more so you can see it clearly. Change the H1 font color to F1BE32 and set the font size to minimum 5 VW and 1.2 EM. Great. So H1, it is also a type selector. Change the font color, so font hyphen color. I don't need to mention font color. To change the color of the font, I will simply write COLOR color, and I'll give it the hash value of F1BE32. You can see the color now. It is yellowish, yellow orange-ish. It is more yellow, maybe ochre yellow. I don't know. And then we'll set the font size. So to set the font size, we have to mention the font size. That is the property, and we'll use the minimum function. So 5VW, comma 1.2 EM. Sorry, not 1 comma 2, 1.2. And we can see HTML CSS quiz now. Great. We've added all the values. Great. Just give me a second. Yes. Step 12. To enable navigation on the page, add an unordered list with the following three list elements, three list items. Okay. So we'll add an unordered list inside navigation. So OL, that stands for we're going to add unordered list. So UL, that stands for unordered list, and I'll add the closing tag because it is not a self-closing tag, and inside this we'll add three list items. So LI, I'll copy this. This is not a self-closing item either, self-closing element either. Paste, and 3. So we have three elements, well, three list items: info, HTML, and CSS. Great. You can only see CSS because the rest are, well, here you can see info and HTML should be somewhere above this. Great. Let's go. What else are we supposed to do? So an unordered list with the following three list items. The list text should be wrapped in anchor tags. Yes. So the other list items. So we're going to add the A attribute, anchor tag. Oh, it's in caps. I have caps lock on. So A tag here and A closing tag here. Paste that, and I'll paste it here too. Notice that they're inside the list element and they're not anywhere else. And we have the green light. Step 13. Target unordered list elements within nav elements and use flexbox to evenly space the children. So children, by children they mean this. Well, it's for unordered list, but yeah. So target unordered list within nav elements. So we have learned how to do this. So what we'll do is, just give me a second. Something's wrong with my arm. Anyway, yeah. So what we'll do is within nav elements. I see. How will we do that? So I'll write nav and then space, no commas, no comma spaces. After that nav, I will write, what are we going to write? So unordered list elements. So should I write UL or LI? I think we should write LI, then curly brackets, and use flexbox to evenly space the children. And for flexbox we use display flex. Yep, I can scroll up and copy this line and I'll paste it here. That works, but there's no change here. Something is not correct. So let's see where we're wrong. Maybe I should write UL. So I'll write UL. Yep, the text disappeared, CSS text disappeared, and we're wrong. I pressed Command Enter and nothing changed. So let's read. What does the hint say? You should use the nav UL selector. So that's new for me, that's new information. We should use this to mention that we are using this selector. That also doesn't work. And we also have to add the justify contents to space it evenly, because yeah, it does mention space evenly. So I'll write justify -contents and semicolon, and before that we will write space evenly. So that should be space evenly. That's exactly it is. That's exactly what it is. So space evenly, and let's see. Justify content. That works. Let's see if we did everything right or incorrect. Yeah, I'm not sure whether we should put that, but I'm wrong. So when we're targeting type selectors, so items inside a type selector, we use this symbol, the greater than symbol. Right, so let's go to the next step. Step 14. As this is a quiz, you will need a form for users to submit answers. You can semantically separate the content within the form using section elements. Yep, we came across section elements before. Yes, yeah, they will have to submit the answers. So you can semantically separate the content within the form using section elements. तो हम लोग अलग-अलग sections बनाएंगे and we'll probably have classes for these different sections. So within the main element, we will create a form with 3 nested section elements. Yep, that's exactly it. Then make the form submit to https:// using the correct method. The correct method. I see. Form. Let's think. We'll try to remember that, but until then, let's write what we do know. Section, copy, paste, and I put it thrice. Okay, great. 3 nested. So we also have to create a form. So I'll create a form element. I'll put the closing tag for this form, and I do not remember how to link a form. So this is what the text is like now. Before, none of this was there. I added this text because we have to create 3 nested section elements. Okay, create a form with 3 nested section elements. Anyway, so they should be nested, so I'll press tab again. Yep, okay. And let's go down and check what is the correct method. So that is the action attribute. So we're going to use the action attribute and we're going to link this to the form. So in the form element, we will give an action attribute. That's where the data will go, the submitted data will go. So HTTPS freeCodeCamp to quiz, copy and paste. That is amazing. These guys know where we might make a mistake. And wait, let me press Ctrl Enter, and I'm still wrong somewhere. You should give the form element a method attribute with the value of post. Yes, we also have to mention the method, how we'll be sending the text, the inputs. So post in lowercase. I remember that from last night, but I didn't remember the remember the method thing. So when we're sending a form, we have to mention the action attribute and the method, whether we would be using post or we would be using get. Now on to step 15. To increase the page accessibility, the role attribute can be used to indicate the purpose behind an element on the page. Whoa. To assistive technologies. Role attribute, interesting. So that's a new element. Well, that's a new attribute. I see. And thank you, one viewer, for watching the video. Thank you so much. Now what does this say? So to increase the page accessibility, okay, the role attribute can be used to indicate the purpose behind an element on the page to assistive technology. अच्छा, तो ये element का purpose क्या है, ये element क्यों डाला गया है, वो हम role attribute से बताते हैं कि भाई इस element का role क्या है. So role attribute is a part of web accessibility initiative. Why? Web accessibility initiative and accepts preset values. Give each of the section elements the region role. So we'll use this. I'll copy this. Each section element. So I'll go to the opening section tag, and in this we'll give them region. I'll copy this. I'll paste this. I should have also have copied the paste space, and that works. We have the green light. That's it. Now let's go to the next step. Every region role requires a label which helps screen reader users understand the purpose of the region. Label. One method for adding a label is to add a heading element inside the region and then reference it with the area labeled by attribute. Area, I think area. And the following area labeled by attributions to the section elements. So these three elements will be labeled under this attribute, and let's read this again. Region role. So we have already given the value region and it requires a label. So for label we'll use the attribute area labeled by attribute. Okay. So yeah, we have given it the role, but now we're also giving it the purpose कि है भाई इसका role क्या और इसका काम क्या है. Role काम, yeah. One method for, okay, add the following, we will do that. What else does it say? Then within each, so let's finish these steps first and then we'll add the rest. So area labeled by paste equals to double quotes student info. Let's paste that text. It always copies the line break. Why? So I think I'll have to stop copying that way. HTML questions, we'll write space aria hyphen label by equals to and the value HTML questions. Then we go to CSS questions और हम इस सेक्शन में डाल देंगे उस वैल्यू को आर्या BELLED by equals to double quotes paste CSS questions, and we'll go up now and we'll read the rest. So then within each section element nest one h2 element. Okay, h2 element with an id matching the corresponding area labeled by attribute. Okay, give each h2 suitable text content. So h2 suitable content, so they are leaving it up to us. So I'll go here and I'll add a nest in h2 elements. So h2 copy paste slash, I'll copy this. I can also give the header value later. And what will be the suitable text content? So then, I also have to add the matching ID. So I'll also copy this from here, and instead of area labeled by, I'll paste that for the attributes. So in h2 space paste, and instead of area I will write ID, and let me copy that. Copy, and we go to h2 of the next section, paste that, but instead of student info it will be HTML questions now. So HTML hyphen QUESTIONS, HTML questions. I could do this. So for h2 I'll copy paste and paste, and instead of aria label by I will write ID. Works. Now we will also have to give an appropriate title, text content to h2s. So give each h2 suitable text content. Okay, so section role region. Okay, student info. You know what? I'll write student for h2 then. STUDENT. We can see student here, and for this we will write HTML, and for this we will write CSS. We could also write CSS questions, but it is self-explanatory when we're doing a quiz. Great. On to the next step. Step 17. Typeface plays an important role in the accessibility of a page. Some fonts are easier to read than others, and this is especially true on low resolution screens. Change the font for both the H1 and H2 elements. Okay, let me read that sentence again. Typeface font कैसा दिखना चाहिए? Is an important legibility of a page. Some fonts are easier to read. That is true. कोई font अगर आपने अपने डिज़ाइन से बनाया तो शायद वो बेकार भी हो सकता है, या फिर आपने अपने हिसाब से बनाया तो शायद आपको ही क्लियरली रीड कर पाएंगे, आप ही क्लियरली रीड कर पाएंगे, लेकिन कोई और क्लियरली रीड नहीं कर पाएगा. Could happen. So some fonts are easier to read than others, and this is especially true on low resolution screens. Yes, अभी किसी की छोटी स्क्रीन है या फिर स्क्रीन की क्वालिटी लो है, 720p है, मे बी लेस, then some fonts are easier to read, so we'll use an easier font to show that. So moving on to the next paragraph, change the font for both the H1 and H2 elements to Verdana and use another web safe font in the sans serif family as a fallback. So H1, H2, curly brackets, but we'll also have to mention the comma, excuse me. Press enter here and I'll give it a, so first I will add font. So I'll write font family and so okay, semicolon, and then we'll write Verdana. Then for fallback we will write sans -serif, and you can see immediately here that Verdana is the font, and it is very clear to read. Now moving on, we will also add a border bottom property. So border -bottom, and we'll give it the value this 4px because we're adding the border bottom. इसके में border डालने वाले हर एक में for all the H1 and H2 tags. So I'll paste that, semicolon, and you can see we've added the border bottom now, just like the preview showed. Great. Let's see what else to element to H2 elements. Okay, so we're only supposed to add that to H2, so I'll cut that from here, sorry, and go down. Okay, there is a lot of space here. Oh, that keeps happening, sorry. So now here I'll write H2, not he, space, curly bracket inside this. Why does that keep happening? And I'll paste the text. That works, and we can submit and go to the next challenge. To be able to navigate within the page, give each anchor element an href corresponding to the ID of the H2 elements. ID of the H2 elements. Okay. Well, what will I write in the href? So interesting. So if I give it the ID, if I click on it, they will be able to go to that part. Interesting. So we're linking them. So give each anchor element. यहाँ पे मैं href में जाऊँगा, equals to double quotes corresponding to the ID of the H2 elements. So H2 element की ID क्या है? What? I can't see the H2 element. Yes, the ID is student info. So copy this and then write the info. Then I'll go to this thing. Then I'll write href equals to double quotes. And for HTML, what is the ID? So we have HTML questions as the ID. I'll paste that here. And for CSS, again, it will probably be CSS questions. Let's take a guess. So CSS questions. Oh, there is a tab, 2 tabs. I see. What else are we supposed to do? Corresponding to the ID of the H2 elements. CSS, QES, TIMS, href, ahref. Let's see where we went wrong. Just give the first element a reference of student-info. We did. hash. So we're going to use hash for the relay. Okay. Did I miss any steps? I wasn't explaining this before. Maybe I didn't read it. Nope. Yeah, that's the first time I'm reading this. Okay. Now we're on step 19. Filling out the content of the quiz. Below student info, add 3 div elements with a class of info. Okay, maybe, yeah, okay, let's read that again. Filling out the content of the quiz. Below student info. So this is the ID, that's why it says hash student info. Add 3 div elements. So यहाँ पे हम लोग 3 div elements डालने वाले हैं. Yeah, and we'll probably add it for HTML questions and CSS too. Yeah, then within each div nest 1 label element and 1 input element. Yep, that is pretty clear. So div, then closing tag for div, and inside this div we will write a label. I'm sorry about the dogs, guys. They're on right now. They may be fighting. They're fighting about something. You know, the street fights. And we go to label and 1 input element. So input is a self-closing tag, so we don't need to put anything. Input, and that's it. And you can see the input is here. Now we're going to do 3 of these. That's it. Let's check. Anything else? So filling out the content of the quiz, we'll add 3 with the class of info. We also have to mention the class. I missed that. So command Z, command Z, command Z. So I don't need to write it myself again. Class, double quotes, info. Now I'll copy this. Then I can paste. I see. And 1 input element. ये भी डाल दिया, label भी डाल दिया. Okay. I shown label and 1 input element. Maybe the input element is supposed to be outside. Let's find out. You should nest 1 input element within the first div after the label. Within the first div after the label. So this should be outside the thing. Okay. So I'll press Ctrl Z, Ctrl Z, Ctrl Z again. Yeah. Command X. And after the label in the div, I have pasted it. Let's see. C, command C, paste. We have the green light. So it was supposed to be after that. Great. So now we're on step 20. It is important to link each input to the corresponding label element. This provides assistive technology users with a visual reference to the input. Okay. Okay, we'll link each input to the corresponding label element. We know how to do that. We'll use for and ID, for attribute for label and ID for the input element. ID attribute. This provides assistive technology users with a visual reference to the input. Yes? Yeah, मतलब उनको सुनाई देगा. और visual reference, so जो पढ़ रहे मतलब yeah, they'll understand that what is being explained, what is being shown. This is done by giving the label a for attribute like I explained, which contains the ID of the input. Great. This section will take a student's name, email address and date of birth. Give the label elements appropriate for attributes as well as text content. So name, email address and date of birth, that is, I think that's clear enough. Then link the input elements to the corresponding label elements. We can do that. So first we'll give them 4 attributes and then we'll also put some text content in there. So let's go down, scroll down. We have the first div class. Inside this label we'll give it the for attribute for, and what was the first? So this is name, email address and date of birth, DOB. We can also use DOB. So name, and while we're at it, might as well do it. So ID equals in double quotes name. I'll also write name in capital. Then let's go to the next one. We have the next div. In label we'll give the for attribute email input id email. This is how we're linking it. Same for this. For equals, what is this? Info. What does this say? So email address and date of birth. This will be date of birth, so date -of -birth. Oh, BIITH, birth. I can copy this much and I'll not need to write anything else. That is someone excited, very excited. Okay, so name, email, and date of birth. Yep. And what else did we miss? Let's see. Then link the input elements to the corresponding label elements. We did that. For id. Yep. Oh, there's a. Yep. Now it makes much more sense. And we have the green line. Great. Now that's step 21. You know what, guys? I'm going to take a quick break, and I'll be back in 15 minutes, half an hour, maybe 10-15 minutes, and I'll see you back in the live in a couple of minutes, maybe 10 minutes, 15 minutes, maybe half an hour. I'll see you guys till then.